What's good, YouTube? Cardfight King here, AQUA Life Baby. You already know how it is. And the AQUA Life is finally back with Mysterious Rain Spiritualist Zorga. I can't tell you, this is probably the most fun deck that I've played in years, honestly. No cap. I love this deck. I think the Alchemy Magic mechanic is a mechanic that can continue to grow as the game progresses due to the fact that we have more of a color system type of support now. We can really utilize a lot of the generic cards and whatnot. Normal orders, we can always have a chance to improve this deck's playstyle. This deck has a Granblue type of playstyle, so we have access to a lot of different combos and a lot of, and pretty much every card in the deck as well. Just overall, just a really good deck. Very technical. This is definitely a technical deck. It's more of like a combo setup deck, but it's very rewarding if played correctly and built correctly. Obviously, I took it to 2 tournaments this past weekend. I ended up going 7-2 overall. Day 1, I lost due to time rules against my brother's Barrel Magus deck, which is on the channel. And then day 2, I went 3-1 during Swiss, only losing to Verena. And then ended up making top 8, and I won my top 8 matchup versus the Bastion deck. So this deck worked out well. I did see a lot of things in the deck I wanted to change up, things I did and did not like, but also within my play style and how I played with the deck, I know there are a lot of things I wanted to clean up as well. So let me go ahead and get to the deck profile, guys, and hope you guys enjoy. And obviously we're going to be starting off with the Rideline, which is Dream Nibbling, Rancor Chain, and Black Tears Husk. And Zorga, obviously. So with Rancor Chain, I think he's universally seen as like the best Stoichia Rideline card. Basically what you do is when you ride him, you Soul Blast 1, and you get to draw 2 cards, discard 1 card if it's in order, 2 cards if you don't discard an order. So he kind of gives you that filter. And he gets 10,000, and he's a 10k booster if you activate an order during the turn. Black Tears Husk Dragon, and when you ride him, you get to ride into him, you get to add an order from your drops into your hand. So you can really set up your ride line. You can discard an order card just to add it back. You can discard something else out to add it back that order, and then you can play it. Like you could do a neat combo with Condensation, where you can add the Condensation back to your hand that you discard with Rancor, and then activate the Condensation to get out a card for a little bit of an early rush or something like that. So yeah, there's some things you can do here. And then obviously you have Zorga. Zorga has the Alchemy Magic ability, making the orders cards, you can activate 2 orders in a turn, 1 from your hand, bind 1 from the drop zone. You have to perform the cost and abilities of the card that you activate from your hand first, before the ones on the back side. You have to do it in that order. You can't choose which one you want to do it with. If you are doing so, then you're misusing the Alchemy Magic ability. But that also means that when you set up your drop zone, anything like that, and you're activating your you're doing your Alchemy Magics, you want to make sure that you have a more or less a proper setup, because there are some setups where it's just not really that good. So, but yeah. Really strong card, and then you get to add a card. You can basically get to counterblast 1 and bring back any card. He sets up a lot of defensive plays in the deck, as you'll see, and obviously he creates offense for himself, adding that Granblue aesthetic to it. So really strong, very fun card. Probably one of my favorite units to ever play with. Oops, excuse me. It's 4 copies of Grief, Despair, and Rejection. We also call it GDR. Probably my favorite order. Basically, it's a front. As long as when you use his ability, you counterblast 1, and if you have Zorga as your Vanguard, you get to choose 3 units and give them 10,000 power. So a lot of times I use this as a front trigger, but there are some occasions where it's like, well, your Vanguard line's a facilitator. It's already at a decent number. You can give plus 20 to a column if you need to. So really you choose how you dish it out depending on the situation, but you have that. 3 copies of Cursed Souls, Squirming in Agony. This is a card I don't like a lot of. I don't want to see this card late game, but I do like to see this card early game. So what it does is that you pay Soul Blast 2 to play it. You get to look at the top 4 cards of your deck, call one from among them, and send the rest to the drop zone. And if you use this card during Alchemy Magic, you get to call 2 cards instead of 1, and the cards that you call out with this ability gain 5,000 power. So you really want to open up with this card because you'll still have the 2 soul at the beginning of the game, and so you can Soul Blast the Husk and the Ranker Chain, and then you get to do the ability and whatnot. But this card really helps you set up a board early. Pretty much for one card gets you 2 cards to the board. I'll take it, and it can also set up your drop zone with certain things that you mill. That you're gonna send to the drop zone, like order cards, whatever it is. So it's a decent card, but you don't want to see this late game. Late game, you don't want to really be using this ability. You want to be utilizing more so just condensation and GDR. 3 copies of Hydraulic Ram. I really love this card. It makes 18k lanes. You do have Black Tear's Husk, but the difference is that Black Tear's Husk he does have intercept, but he only gains his power when you activate an order card. This guy just needs you to have an order card bound. So there were a lot of times to which, especially where I just didn't have an order to activate, this card would have been a dead card, but this card still gave me a clean 18k line. And the power difference between 15 and 18 was too great not to ignore. It saved me a lot during my top 8 matchup against Keter, where if I had Black Tears, it would have made a 40k line, but this guy made a 43k line, which was just enough shielding to either force out an extra card or get the damage into where my opponent couldn't guard. So honestly, I really love Hydraulic Ram, and I would, I don't think I'd change him out for the Husk Dragon just because of how useful he is. And then obviously 3 Zorga. So that's it for the grade 3s. So going into the grade 2s, grade 2s we're playing 4 copies of Hendrina. Now Hendrina, very good card in this deck. When you call her to the board, you can mill 3, and her other ability is you just retire her, and she reduces the cost of all of Soul Blasting for all when you do Alchemy Magic. So when you Alchemy Magic, you don't pay the Soul Blast cost. You activate Cursed Soul with Body Condensation, and that is a free 3 cards to the board at +5 power. Really good. The mill part of her, I use it sparingly now. I don't really actually use it all the time, mostly because I don't want to put myself in a situation where I overmill, because there's no guarantee as to what you're going to mill, because there were times during the tournament where I milled, one time I milled a crit and double heal trigger. That served 0 purpose, that helped me in no way. So I don't really like the random milling that she has on her right now, because we're not really utilizing the drop zone in a way in which we want to rapidly build up the number of cards in it, like in other Granblue decks. In other Granblue decks, sure, but in this deck, you're not really looking at the number of cards you're milling. You want to mill or have specific cards, really just your order and certain cards you can call out, but that's about it. And then 2 copies of Ghost Chase. So Ghost Chase, I'm going to seriously probably increase this to 3 copies, maybe 4, depending. It gives you access. So basically, what it is, it's basically like a quick shield, right? When you use it, you give a unit 5,000 power, and then 1 unit that's not being attacked, you bounce it back to your hand. Perfect. Here's the thing: this card gives you access to the 2 strongest shields that all Vanguard decks have, which is your Perfect Guard and your Overtrigger. Why do I say that? Because of Zorga's playstyle. You can call them to the board. For whatever reason it is, you can call them to the board. You can use this card, give something 5k, you can do this in combo with a 15k shield to block for 33, and then you can bounce that Perfect Guard or Overtrigger back to your hand. Now, you have more usages per game out of these extremely strong defensive cards than other decks do. So that's why I like Ghost Chase. And it's a really good card. The more I used it, it's a Blitz order. The more I use it, I really love this card. And you can bounce back other things too, like Adamantis and whatnot. Now, I know there's people asking about Elenia. I haven't tested Elena. Elena was not in my alpha build, whatever it is, for this deck. This is really kind of like the alpha build. This was not in it. I didn't think that she was a great card, but the more that I've explored with her and watched her be used, especially with Commander Jaime's deck profile and whatnot, she is a card that I'm going to definitely be experimenting with. I think that she can have a place in this deck, being able to call something out for Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, and revive something, give it 5,000 power. I think is a really good card. It's basically like a little. She's a body condensation with a little bit more of a cost, but on a body. So, having more body condensations, I'm all for. So she's a card that I'm going to be experimenting with, later on down the line, probably soon. And speaking of body condensation, we have spiritual body condensation. Soul Blast 1, college card from the drop zone, and it gains 5,000 power. And then now the grade that you call has to be equal to or less than your Vanguard. But when you're on Zorga, you call anything. Really good card. Gives the unit 5k, literally just a Monster Reborn. And like I said, Elena just has the added counterblast cost to her ability. But, it's essentially the same thing as Condensation, free Monster Reborn in a way. So, very good card. Love this order. Obviously, we got 4 PGs. I'm working on getting my last SP one. And then 3 copies of Adamantis. So, Adamantis is a really good card. Call to the board, give another rearguard 5k power. So he can change he can really change things up between guarding for 20, when you swing for 28, he can make it to 33. He can power up like Hendrina or whatever it is. So this guy, this card is definitely a really neat card, and you can keep bringing him back, giving that +5 power. So he's easily a card that I can see remaining in this deck for a while. But I will play 4 copies, but I don't really have the room for it at this moment, nor do I feel like I could create the room, just due to the fact of there are other cards that I would want to play. But 3 is a good number. So for the crit triggers, we're doing 8 crit. Obviously, we got the 4 heal triggers. I'll be getting 2 more SPs real soon, and then 3 front and the over trigger. So the crits, I want to play more crits in this deck, but we only have 8, or we only have 2 types, so it is what it is. But the with the front triggers, I still do kind of flip flop a little bit between fronts and draws. But I mean, the front triggers I played over the weekend for the tournament because I wanted more shielding in hand, and this deck I really wanted to push. Like, again, this is the combo setup type of deck, and Zorga needs to be able to really kind of like push every turn, and I felt like the front triggers are just really strong cards that will allow me to push, especially with the changes I'm thinking about making to the deck. I think that's going to increase the value of the front trigger a lot more. Plus, it's a 15k shield, so that's basically added another 10k more shield to my lineup than what the draw trigger presented, especially with your milling and whatnot. So I just felt like the front trigger was just a lot better for push plays, and it did come in handy quite a bit during the tournament. And then obviously the over trigger. So the over trigger, was it Blessed Favor? It's a really good over trigger. I think it's a pretty good over trigger. It's literally the all trigger. When you hit it, you get to draw a card, give front row 10k, get a crit somewhere, and heal. And heal if you have equal to or more damage than your opponent. And then obviously the 100 million assignment. But it's a card you want to see mid to late game. You don't really want to see it early game. It's not as impactful early game. That's kind of the thing with certain over triggers. Certain over triggers you want to see early. You want to see early. Some you do, and then some you just don't want to see early. This is a trigger I don't want to see early. I'd rather see it late. If obviously, mid to late. But that's the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to be starting up a new series. Basically like a deck guide type of series about Zorga. We're going to be covering a lot of different cards in the deck, you know, ways you can utilize them, different combos, playstyles. Like, I got a lot of things planned for this deck. It's such a technical deck, a lot of different things to go into it, a lot of different ways you can build it and play it, cards you want to see, you don't want to see. So I'm going to be doing that, doing a lot of testing, changing up the deck as I see fit for my playstyle and the meta, of course, and whatnot. But yeah, it's been Deck Profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. AQUA Life Baby, you already know what it is, and we're out.